No, thank you so much. I should say that the Tralac Annual Conference is really one of the highlights of my year as far as my trade activities are concerned. This is a time where I believe that I get a lot of insights on what's happening at the continent level, particularly because it's a place where I get to meet all sorts of experts in our trade field. But most importantly, I also get an update of what's going on in the other regional economic blockings, and particularly with the ongoing trade negotiations or whatever global trade events that take place. And of course, this year, we're talking a lot about the Brexit, because that happened after we had our Tralac conference, and of course, what happened in America in November with the new administration there. So for me, Tralac, always great to update myself on the current trends, but I should also say equally important is the networking opportunities that are granted, and how you get to meet all of these specialists in their field, and how later on during the year you can actually go back to them and ask questions that you may need answers to. The key issues, I think, more than what was discussed, is more of the thought process that was going on in me regarding our economic structure. The current economic, geopolitical, geographical structure that the world works in. Is that what is going to serve our interests in today's world? And so, of course, this was highlighted by the fact that this popularism, that the rise in popularism, has a lot of backlash on trade. And one of the things that I look at is to say that the trade agenda cannot go on its own. It has to be accompanied by the other aspects that build societies together. So, for example, we have to look at the political issues that govern trade, because we do know that whatever happens, there will be losers and there will be winners. But how do we make sure that collectively we all feel like we are gaining from this trade liberalization or trade agreements that we're engaged in? So for me, that was what stood out. And also looking at the fact that maybe the current model that we have right now is not working. Maybe we need to relook at it. And so more and more, I'm starting to look at, examine the context in which these trade agreements and this trade architecture was actually built. Maybe the time has come for us to start relooking at another trade model that will actually serve the interests of the peoples of the world, that there's actually growth and that there's actually inclusive growth, whereby our youth feel that they are participating in a world that values their skills, such as innovation and productivity. How do we increase the productivity? How do we increase competitiveness and inclusiveness? So that was a lot of, as you can imagine, I was thinking a lot more than listening, perhaps. I was thinking about the question in preparation, for the interview, and I was thinking that the role that the Namibia Trade Forum has is to be this channel between the government and the private sector, to be this platform where government and private sector can talk about trade and trade-related issues. So one of the things that I believe we need to do is try to see how is it that Tralac, besides talking to the policymakers, which is mostly us, how can we maybe try to evolve the conversation to include more private sector, more business, which we all are slowly starting to do, but most importantly, the consumers. The day-to-day people who signed against Brexit, not knowing that the trade benefits were actually a lot more than the immigration benefits that they contravened themselves against. So I believe that what we need to do is really start bringing trade to the people and making people understand what are the benefits of the work that we are involved in, so that they don't just see it as this foreign thing that's taking place. So I believe that more and more we need to start looking at how Tralac, we can start looking at pieces that center and focus on the consumer as well as the businesses, and try to make it more digestible and see it from their perspective, and start to have this dialogue more and more, because we have focused a lot on the policymakers, on the government officials, on the academicians, on the researchers, but as much as we have done on private sector, we need to do a lot more, especially with civil society.